this just in. Now, this changes everything. Tom Aspinall has announced everything's set for his fight with Jon Jones. I believe that. Contrary, I cannot allow a story to be told inaccurately. You can hate on Jon all you want. You just got to do it within confines of reality. And I got to tell you, while Jon began to publicly negotiate right after his fight with Stipe, well, Jon began to do that, and it almost sounded unrealistic. $30 million, $50 million. Like, we're just saying, we're just being silly at this point. While it sounded that way, I have always maintained for you that when the day comes, right, Jon's doing what, he's making his move. But when the day comes that phone rings and there's an actual venue booked and an on date, Jon will say yes. And we have no evidence to the contrary. There has been a theme, there's been almost like a phenomenon in the sport of MMA that Jon Jones is holding up that fight with ridiculous negotiations. Just here to let you know, we have no evidence of that. We had Jon doing exactly what he was in the right and in the confines to do. Then you play the venue game, you play the date game, talk to everybody and make sure they're healthy and happy and square it up with the commission. And I mean, there's a lot of steps that you get to. Then you make those damn phone calls. And Tom Aspinall has come out and said it's done. They've come to terms. So I share this because if Jones and Aspinall have come to terms, it would change my opinion on any suggestion I've ever made about Pereira going to heavyweight. Pereira is the only guy of my lifetime. He's the only guy that I've ever seen. He's the only guy under contract right now that I reasonably believe could pull off champ. I would like to see that. 36-year-old middleweight champ, 37-year-old light heavyweight champ, 38-year-old heavyweight champ. I would like to see that. Whether it works out or not, I'd like to see the opportunity. But hold on. That's not enough. That's not enough of a story. There still has to be a why. Who do you want to fight? Oh, they happen to be heavyweight. Oh, and they happen to be the champion at heavyweight. Okay, great. Everything's coming together. Moving them up just for the sake of moving it up. But I don't get the point. I mean, it sounds like he's going to be offered a title fight at 205 pounds. So in a best case scenario, if he goes to heavyweight, he's offered a title fight there. It's in some ways even. I get the champ thing, but it's still even. You're still talking about the points. You're still talking about the pay-per-view. You're still talking about being the main event. You're still talking about being world champion. Whatever word they put in front of world champion does not matter. They put middleweight in front of it. They put heavyweight in front of it. They put BMF in front of it. They put women's in front of it. They put interim in front of it. It does not matter if it ends with world champion. And my belief of Pereira going up to heavyweight is superseded by the helpfulness that Pereira as a piece on the chessboard would provide. Like, if we couldn't get Jones and Aspinall done, what are you going to do? I mean, what are you going to do? How do you solve that problem? You call Surreal? And what do? You put Surreal with Aspinall? I mean, do you? That would do something, but I'm just saying, do you feel the difference? And that's where it would be so helpful to have Pereira at heavyweight, just purely as a bargaining chip if needed. Purely from the idea of, here's what we can do. But all my opinions are gone if it just has to do with straight competition. If it has to do with straight competition, a world title is a world title. Keep a guy at his weight. Have a guy take on a guy who he's already failed against. Like, I mean, that's what you got to do. That's what a true competitor do, is scratch and claw and find his way back. So, if this information is right, if Aspinall has been informed correctly, it would change my opinion. And I quickly would jump right on board with Pierre Ankalaev rematch. If we're keeping Pereira in the weight class of 205, you got to give him the rematch. You could justify not if you take him out of the damn weight class, but this changes things, right? I mean, that piece on the board was the most valuable thing that Pereira had. Pereira versus Aspinall is not as powerful as Pereira being a substitute to take on Aspinall. Pereira versus Jon Jones is not as helpful as Pereira providing an option for Jon Jones as a way of getting what we really want, which is Aspinall and Jones. This is big news. If Aspinall's right and this is to come together, great. We'll be excited. It'll be the biggest fight of 2025, possibly the biggest fight of all time. I would suspect it would be. But you would still be left to admit that Jon Jones never held things up. And Jon Jones said what he wanted to say at a press conference, but when that phone call came, like a true champion, he said yes. At a minimum, as painful as that might be for you, you're going to have to accept and admit that.